Hi guys, Forgotten Wolf here, and this is part 2 to What If Rhaenyra and Daemon were in King's Landing when Viserys died. Last time, if you remember, Daemon rallied the Gold Cloaks to give Rhaenyra the Iron Throne, while executing the Green Small Council along with Aegon and Aemond, while Lucerys survives Storm's End and gets Stormlands on Team Rhaenyra since Aemond is dead. Today I'll be covering the Dance of the Dragons and everything comes beyond that. That little recap out of the way, let's get straight into it, or let's begin. Obviously, with Aegon and Aemon dead, Ormond Hightower is going to make Daeron king. This happened in the actual show, and I see no reason to change it now. This makes the Dance of the Dragons Rhaenyra versus Daeron, which just sounds really weird to me. But Team Greens are basically the Reach, the Lannisters, and the Triarchy, I'm still guessing, as I don't think that'll really change the Triarchy attacking. And and the Blacks have the Dragons, the Valyrian fleet, the Stormlands, the Riverlands, the North, and the Vale. The Dance of the Dragons is really short, or a lot shorter compared to normal, as with the Battle of King's Landing over and the execution of the Greens happening in part 1. There's just these really two major battles yet to take place. The first battle is the first and only Battle of Tumbleton, which is going to be a lot different than in the books or whatever the fuck House of the Dragon's going to do. This is because the Dragon Seeds won't claim dragons, more specifically Hugh Hammer and Ulf White. While Adam of Hull might still claim Sea Smoke, Rhaenyra won't put out a call for Targaryen ambassadors, as the Blacks have two more dragons by this point, being Luke and Arax, still alive on Dragonstone, while Rhaenys and Meleys are still alive, as the Battle of Rook's Rest won't happen with Criston Cole dead. Getting into the Battle of Tumbleton, it'll be a massive Blacks victory, as I'm predicting Rhaenyra to send Daemon and Caraxes with the Riverlands army, and maybe the Winterwolves as well if they can make it there in time. If Daemon and Caraxes can take down Vhagar, they can definitely take down Daeron and Tessarion. Daeron meets his end here, along with Ormond Hightower and Gwaine Hightower, likely captured at the battle or killed. Either way, Daeron is killed at the Battle of Tumbleton, and Ormond and Gwaine are likely executed by Daemon for their crimes, which essentially means that the Hightowers are going to be dead, besides Alicent, and completely wiped off the board, which can give Rhaenyra the power to name anyone else the Lord of Old Town. And I think she would give Old Town to her son Joffrey, and making him the Lord of Old Town, because her other two kids with Valinor will be king / a lord, and her son is another person who she can directly trust. It's also possible that Daemon gets Old Town, as she does need someone stronger to hold it, but Joffrey Valerian is a strong... Yeah, but I'm sticking by my prediction that the Hightowers are wiped off the board completely, and Rhaenyra gives her son Joffrey Valerian Old Town. You might be thinking that the wars ended with Daeron ending, but not yet, as the Triarchy I still think will attack the Valerian fleet leading into the Battle of the Gullet. However, I do want to make another change to House of the Dragon Season 2. With Lucerys surviving, that means that Rhaena Targaryen will not be in the Vale to claim Sheepstealer, thus Rhaena is still dragonless. Now, getting on to the Battle of the Gullet, it will still be as deadly, but with Rhaenys alive still, she'll be guarding the Valyrian fleet with Meleys, meaning Rhaenyra won't try to go herself. Hell, Rhaenyra is in King's Landing, far away to do anything, and Jacaerys is probably in King's Landing too. The Vermex, as he is heir to the Iron Throne, meaning he won't die at this battle, and also Rhaena doesn't have a dragon, further saying that Jacaerys will not die. Getting into the battle, I doubt that Lucerys pulls a Jace and goes to the battle, so if Adam of Hull is still claiming Sea Smoke, then he will likely be at the Battle of the Gullet. But I also think that Rhaenys is too experienced to fall victim to the Triarchy's fleet and get killed. I think that Rhaenys is too smart and experienced and knows how to get the Triarchy's fleet from a distance and not get hooked by the Triarchy. This means that the Battle of the Gullet isn't really a draw like in the show. I'd say it's more of a definitive Black's victory. As a side note, though, Driftmark will still be sacked, but since everyone important is in King's Landing or Dragonstone, nobody of note will be killed. With the Battle of the Gullet being another victory for the Blacks, I'd say the Dance of the Dragons is over by this point, with everyone surviving for Team Black and mostly everyone dying for Team Green. After the war ends, Jace will be immediately married to Baela, while Luke will be married to Rhaena. However, peace isn't permanent, as when Rhaenyra does die, I think there's a very good chance a second Dance of the Dragons breaks out between Jacaerys, Luke, and Joffrey against Rhaenyra's kids with Daemon, Aegon, and Viserys. Because let's not forget that Jacaerys, Luke, and Joffrey are all bastards. between Harwin Strong and Rhaenyra, while Aegon Targaryen and Viserys Targaryen are the trueborn sons of Rhaenyra, which means the second dance, while maybe 10 to 30 years since House of the Dragon, would be, I think, would still happen as people will try to crown Aegon. On Team Jace, I'm calling them, the dragons are now King Jacaerys and Vermax Lucerys, who would be Lord of the Tides by this point, and Arax, Joffrey, and Tyrax, and Baela the Moondancer, along with Jace, Luke, and Joffrey's children, while Aegon and Viserys just have Aegon and Stormcloud and maybe Sea Smoke. But yeah, obviously Jacaerys will win, but I could maybe see himself getting killed in battle like he does in the original Dance of the Dragons, but more importantly, it means that the natural silver-haired Targaryen line would be wiped out completely, with the black-haired Targaryen line being the ruling line. As and something I have mentioned at this point is the dragons won't die out, as the dragons will likely survive both Dance of the Dragons. Since the silver/blonde-haired Targaryen line dies, it means that the Blackfire Rebellions, the Robert's Rebellion, and the War of the Five Kings all don't happen, and meaning the dragons still exist by the time of Game of Thrones. Now, I want to mention all the characters that don't exist as a result of Rhaenyra and Daemon being in King's Landing when Viserys died. This is going to be a long list. Baelor Targaryen, Valar, Maekar, Aerion, Egg, the Mad King, Rhaegar, Viserys, Daenerys, and Jon Snow, just to name a few characters that won't exist. It also means that Lyanna Stark will marry Robert Baratheon, who in this universe can't challenge the Targaryens since they have dragons by the time of 281 AC. Besides, Lyanna would never be kidnapped since Rhaegar doesn't exist. It just makes Robert the Lord of Storm's End. Ned Stark is likely married to someone else in the north or taking the Black of the Night's Watch, which makes Ned's older brother, Brandon, the Lord of Winterfell, and married to Catelyn, making Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, and Rickon Brandon's kids instead of Ned's. Overall, Rhaenyra and Daemon being in King's Landing when Viserys died in Season 1 of House of the Dragon has so many ripple effects for not just House of the Dragon, but Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and more importantly, Game of Thrones, as so many characters don't exist, the dragons are alive, and so many characters' journeys won't ever happen. That does it for me and this What If. Let me know if you enjoyed this What If, and the next What If should be the final House of the Dragon What If, sorry for yawning there, before I return to making Game of Thrones What Ifs, but the House of the Dragon What If, the next one in August will be What If Jacaerys Velaryon married Helaena. But until then, bye!